Okay. Hello, welcome to the afternoon session of the virtual reading fair, day 7. This is wonderful. We're reading, learning, adults and children. This is a great intellectual, intergenerational reading model. And I hope that people out in the community are taking the time to read with their children, and they have workbooks and they're helping to prepare each child for the next grade, which will be coming up pretty soon, whether it's a virtual or in school or whatever. But preparation is always a good thing. Okay, I'm Meredith McGee, the chair of Community Library of Mississippi, and I'm going to let everybody else introduce themselves.
I'm Lynette Scott, Greenville, Mississippi.
I am Vicki Jenkins, co-chair of the Community Library of Mississippi.
I am Lucretia Jennings from the city of Detroit.
Welcome.
Welcome. Hello. Hello.
I am Dr. Janice K. Neal Vincent of Madison, Mississippi.
Thank you. And I just saw someone named Billy.
Yes, that's me.
And where are you from? Is that the same person from Detroit?
Detroit.
Oh, we have two people from Detroit.
Yeah, I'm Lynette's sister.
My sister.
Okay. So well, glad to have you. Are you reading something?
No, I'm listening.
You listening? Okay.
I'm at work.
Okay, so
I'm at work today.
oh, I get you. Okay. All right. So who wants to read first?
There's another person in. Shebra.
Is another person coming in? Hello, how are you?
Shebra.
I'm doing fine. How are you?
Oh, wonderful.
Pardon me?
Are you? What's your name?
It's Shebra
Okay, and where do you live?
in Gray, Georgia.
Oh, wonderful.
That's another one of my sisters. That's a sister we have claimed one another.
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
Okay. So, Sarah, are you reading something today?
No, I'm not. I'm just listening today.
Okay, you're just listening to. Okay, well, so glad to have you.
Thank
Hello,
you. Hey.
I'm Billy. Okay. All right. So, who's gonna volunteer to start reading first?
But I go.
You going first, Vicki? Was that Vicki?
National Sunday Law, the two-horned beast. The nation trembles. Passengers' jets explode into buildings. Mountains of fire, steel, smoke, terrified, struggling people to fall in the streets together. Skyscrapers crumble in the dust. Thousands perished as Americans at war. A kind of war fills our minds with pictures and strange faces, balls and fire, women screaming. We are at war, the president said. The world would never be the same. With terrorism, like some giant octopus engulf the world, or will World War III end it all? We're going now to an incredible journey behind the scenes to take a shocking glimpse. Something happening in our country, something strange. Have you noticed it? 38 people looking out their window in a quiet, respectable neighborhood of New York City watched a murder that took full half hour to commit. They watched the murder, took half hour to commit, and did nothing about it. 38 people watched Catherine Genovese being stabbed again and again in front of her home, and no one cared. They just watched out their window as if watching The Late Show, watched until it was over, and they went back to bed. Since America was attacked and were things different now, get ready for a shock. You are going to go behind the scene, and look awesome things that are happening, leading to the great crisis of land. It starts on a stark, rocky island, and to the horizon stretches in a vast expanse of the murky deep. One lone figure rests on a barren ledge of the sheer rock. His name, John the Revelator. What he sees is fantastic. Strange beasts, clashing armies, nations rising. It is no surprise that the greatest nation on earth would be mentioned in prophecy. What John sees pretends events shaping up in the United States that most definitely will affect you. Watch closely now as the scene unfolds. And I beheld another beast coming up from the earth, and he had two horns like a lamb, and he spake like a dragon. Revelations 13:11. A beast in the prophecy represents a kingdom. Daniel 7:23. When the beast comes up from the sea, it represents the prophecy as a rising many people and multitudes, highly populated area. Revelations 17:15. To come out of the earth, and in opposite, here we are, nations that is surprising out of the wilderness area instead of the overlapping advance into a well-trained army of the dense population of the old world nation. And an area discovered in the excess of the known world, it becomes a new territory, differing from the often old blood-soaked nations of Europe. It would spring up quietly and peacefully like a lamb. Can you guess what nation grew up from the old world? And we see world rose into
Nikki, you still there?
of the old world. America was a wild wilderness, and he had two horns like a lamb. The lamb-like horn indicates youth, gentleness, represents civil and religious freedom. The Declaration of Independence and the Constitution reflect the noble views. Because of the varying principles of our nation become great. The opposite represent from all that we have looked to the United States with hope. But the best with the lamb-like horns spake like a dragon, and he exercised all of the power of the first beast before him, and causeth the earth then which dwell therein to worship the first beast whose deadly wound was healed. and that doth great wonder, so that he maketh the fire come down from the heaven to the earth in the sight of men. Revelations 13, 11, 13. Incredible. Keep your eyes open as the drama unfolds. You will see miracles, most amazing of the nature, saying to those who dwell in the earth, they should make the image of the beast, the wound would see, I can't even say it, which had the wound by sword, did live. Revelations 13, 14. Can you imagine the U.S. doing anything like that? How could possibly happen? Watch closely. The lamb-like horn had then the dragon voice present to change the personality, a real change. Speak of his country, and the dragon denotes the use of force of the principles as we shall see, we used by the leopard in the beast, the first beast of the Revelation 13, which enforced religious observance by the law, which actions of the U.S. government will be directly contrary to the grand principles of religious freedom. The Constitution provides Congress with make no laws representing an establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof. Speak as a dragon, our nation. Do you hear the stirring? Have you noticed attitudes becoming more intolerant of anger lately? Angry at crime, terrorism, political, religious, and social corruption. In view of these horrifying trends of the time, it understands why the nation is to speak that why one pornography, mass murder, neglect of the aged, abuse of women, and even of babies. Sickened at the heart, men possessed are taking the lives of men, women, and little children. Millions of Americans hooked on marijuana, crack, heroin, and other chemicals peer at the world through different degrees of agony and fears appall the society where has
Vicky, what
what
are you reading on? Is that a magazine
it's
or a
called,
newspaper?
no, it's a book called the National Sunday Law.
Oh, it's a
It's
book.
called
Okay.
it's called A Shocking Glimpse Behind the Scenes. Force Unite Stupendous Crisis. That's what the book is. Force. It's a book. Can you see it now?
Hold it up. Oh, I believe I might I think I may have gotten a copy of that book at a festival one time.
Okay. I was reading the first chapter. Okay.
How many pages in the first chapter?
It's got 2 more pages.
Huh?
Huh?
How many pages?
2 more pages.
2 more pages, okay.
The lamb-like horns, then dragon voice present a change of personalities. Force. This present shall see the world used by the leopard-like attack the beast, the first beast, Revelations 13, which enforced religious observance by the law. Such action by the U.S. government should be directly contrary to its grand principles of religious freedom. The Constitution provides that Congress shall make no law respecting the establishment of religion part of Meredith? Meredith.
Uh-huh.
I
Okay,
was,
you
I,
finished. You
huh?
finished it. Does anybody have any questions to ask Vicky about the chapter she read?
No, ma'am.
What is the main point? Excuse me. What is the main point of what you read?
I'm sorry, I didn't quite catch what you.
Can you tell us the main point of what you read? What is the message that the author is seeking to convey?
I'm sorry, I still didn't understand what you said.
What is the author's message to the reader?
Well, the author's message is that it is it said the National Sunday Law, but it's actually looking at Revelations, and you know what Revelations is, and so that's what it's.
Mom, what's wrong with that?
Well, actually,
Huh?
the author's message is kind of timely.
That's
Yeah.
how life's framed, and it's
Uh-huh.
about Revelations. And everybody knows that Revelations is coming, so and it's about Revelations. And
Okay.
it's,
And who's the title? Who's the author of the book?
the book authored by A. Jan Markson. The book is called National Sunday Law.
Hold the
Forces
book up.
United Amidst Dependent Crisis. So what?
Hold the book up again so they can see the cover. Hold it up and say something when you hold it up.
Can you see it?
Hold it
No.
up a little further and say something else.
Now I see it. So I sent you a comment regarding the revelation. And I was wondering, I was thinking I was on the right track. So I'm pretty sure I am now. Thank you.
Okay, so I'll read the rest of my introduction now. This is the book I'm reading from. It's a children's book that I wrote, The Sheet of Business, the Mississippi State Capitol. It's volume 2 of the Moses Mary Country Arts book series. And that is actually a picture of the Mississippi State Capitol. It's an older picture of the Capitol. And the character, the little
Okay.
girl.
Can anybody see it now?
Huh?
Okay. It is called the National Sunday Law. That's the name of the book, the National Sunday Law.
Oh,
And
yes,
it is really the,
we saw it. I had started reading my book, Vicky.
oh, okay. I'm sorry. I
Uh-huh.
didn't got off into yours. Okay, I'm sorry.
Uh-huh.
Okay.
All right. Okay, so I'm going to read the rest. I read 3 pages of the introduction this morning at the morning session at 11. So I'm reading the other 2 pages, I think. Everyone in my family loves sports. We love tennis, basketball, football, baseball, or read that part. When it comes to sports, we are Jackson State University fans. My parents like LeBron James, and my grandparents are crazy about Jeff Teague. When the Cleveland Cavaliers play the Indiana Pacers, we all get to speak our mind. 2 points, 3 points, in your face. Mama always says it's nice to enjoy life, but life is not a party. Mom and Dad also tells me I will learn something new every day for the rest of my life. They are telling the truth. Yesterday we went to the library and I learned something new about the city of my birth and my home state. So I'm gonna read 2 pages of chapter 1. That's the Mississippi River too. In 1817, Mississippi became the 20th state to join the United States of America. Mississippi has been nicknamed the Magnolia State and the Hospitality State. The word Mississippi comes from an Indian term which means father of waters. The river is the second largest river in North America. Once upon a time, white settlers were looking for land in the center of Mississippi to build our state capital. At that time, our main government buildings were in Natchez, Mississippi. Natchez is off the Mississippi River near Vandalia, Louisiana. Not far from the scene of this picture. Today, cars drive over the Mississippi River across a bridge to get from Natchez to Vandalia. Back then, people took the ferry across the Mississippi River to travel from Natchez to Vandalia. Mama said a ferry was a large float made with wood. People paid a fare to ride the ferry. The ferry guide collected the fare and navigated the ferry to float toward Vandalia or toward Natchez. Several land inspectors selected a trading post called LeFleur's Bluff in present-day Jackson as a suitable site for our state capital. A French-Canadian named Louis LeFleur was the first European to settle at this trading post, so this settlement was named for him. Today, the site of the settlement is off Lakeland Drive near the Mississippi Agriculture and Forestry. In 1821, LeFleur's Bluff was renamed Jackson for Andrew Jackson. State capital was built on State Street because it was near a river which was a water supply. Today, this river is known as the Pearl River. And I'll stop here and continue tomorrow. Does anybody have any question what I've read so far?
What came to my mind, and I was waiting to see, but you did just 2 pages, was the movie 12 Years a Slave. My mind just took me there in terms of the portrayal of the movie. And I can't remember the actor's name now, but I thought he was such a superb actor, the main character of 12 Years a Slave. And I'm glad that you have visited Natchez, because that's one of the places I suppose I should know quite a bit about, being a native Mississippian, but I don't know much about it. The most I know about it is the festival that takes place there every year, and the literary festival. But 12 Years a Slave came to my mind, and of course we know what took place there, so I won't steal your thunder.
Well, the thing that when you mentioned 12 Years a Slave, the most fascinating thing about him as an author is that he was a best-selling author in the 1850s, which I had never heard of in my life. And of course, he was a free man who ended up being a slave for 12 years. So when he went back, he had a lot of people who were literate who could buy a book, and also I guess I'm not sure who published it, but that was one of the most fascinating things I learned about that movie was that he himself was a best-selling author at a time when it was illegal for us to read and write.
Mm-hmm. Yes, and I did not know that about him being a best-selling author. I remember when the man he was connected to, as he kept telling the other master about who he was, and that one engaged in his punishment. But the one who knew him, who came up that day, was very persistent and did not care what he said and took his man away. That was a profound statement.
Yes,
And
it
I never forgot it. Took his man away, and he was able to get back to his family and reunite. That was such a blessing to me.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. So I thank you for sharing that chapter.
Okay.
Two.
Who's gonna read next?
Well, I can read. I have a book here, Post-Traumatic Slave Syndrome.
Okay.
And the author of this book is Joy DeGraw Leary, a PhD. Post-Traumatic Slave Syndrome. This is chapter 4 of that book, and I'm only going to read the first page of chapter 4. This is by an ex-slave, 1849, Henry Bibb. So he says, who can imagine what could be the feelings of a father and mother when looking upon their infant child whipped and tortured with impunity and placed in a situation where they could afford it no protection? But we were all claimed and held as property. The father and the mother were slaves. I was compelled to stand and see my wife shamefully scourged and abused by her master. And the manner in which this was done was so violently and inhumanely committed upon the person of a female that I despair in finding decent language to describe the bloody act of cruelty. My happiness or pleasure was then all blasted, for it was sometimes a pleasure to be with my family, even in slavery. I loved them as my wife and child. Little Frances was a pretty child. She was quiet, playful, bright, and interesting. But I could never look upon the dear child without being filled with sorrow and fearful apprehensions of being separated by slaveholders, because she was a slave, regarded as property. And unfortunately for me, I am the father of a slave. It calls fresh to my mind the separation of husband and wife, of stripping, tying up and flogging, of tearing children from their parents and selling them on the auction block. It calls to mind female virtue, virtue trampled underfoot. But oh, when I remember that my daughter, my only child, is still there, destined to share the fate of all these calamities, it is too much to bear. If ever there was any one act of my life while a slave that I have to lament over, it is that of being a father and a husband of slaves. Again, that's ex-slave Henry Bibb in 1849.
That's really, it really takes you back. And I think it makes you want the young children today to really understand that I think the Black Lives Matter movement has opened some eyes for them, but I think our children think that we have overcome, and we're still not where we need to be.
Yes, it brings back lots of sadness to know that we were in a predicament where we could not help ourselves. And to see a man pulled down, like is described here in terms of his wife and child, is really troubling. And to bring it on to where we are now, to look at the George Floyd situation, and many George Floyds before him, and many yet to come in terms of systemic racism. And so many people still can't see. But I'm happy that the world was able to actually witness the killing of George Floyd at such ease of the officers who were up there committing the act. And it just tells me that there is so much more that we have to do here and in America and around the world to get folks to see humanity. Because racism is vicious. And I can't even fathom what took place way back there during slavery. But each time I'm brought by attention to things, there's such anger on the inside of me, such willingness to help others to see beyond self and begin to really relate to what is going on around us. So again, this book is Post-Traumatic Slave Syndrome, and it's by Dr. Joy DeGruy Leary. It's such a book that causes the soul to wake up. And I wanted to share that passage today.
Well, thank you. And I was kind of thinking the same thing that Millie was saying, that actually reading and learning our history is a part of the Black Lives Matter movement. And just this morning, I saw where Asheville, South Carolina City Council voted to give some type of reparation to its Black citizens, and I understand it has something to do with home ownership, which I thought was a wonderful thing that came out of this whole George Floyd uprising. And I heard so many famous Blacks say that they learned things about our history for the first time from seeing it on social media after George Floyd. So it's a good thing that we're now learning our history, which is a great awakening.
Yes, it's a great awakening. And I strongly believe that God is opening up hearts and minds. So many have not been reading, and so he brought social media to the forefront for us to see and to be able to have these conversations like we're having today, to be able to have them and to want to go back and learn more and revisit what we have once forgotten, because all of these things are thrust upon us. And we really don't have an excuse nowadays to say, I did not know. So much is coming all at once. Our cups are running over. Just like David was saying, his cup was running. Our cups are running over. We can't even contain all of the information. So many people are talking from all aspects of the globe. And that's an amazing encounter for us. And shame on us if we don't take advantage of the opportunity, for it may never come again in our lifetime.
I agree, and I also was listening to a psychologist talk about the stressors and COVID and the stressors. That's what it was around, but it was also talking about African Americans always live with stress because it's a stressor being an African American in the United States, and especially now. I think it always has been, but now it's more in the forefront. And the more I think about that, it's very true, because I don't think other races have to worry about or even think about what we have to think about. I was going down the street yesterday and I saw the deputy sheriff, and I'm thinking, when most other races see the sheriff, they just think there's somebody to help them. We have to think about if there's another agenda.
Mm-hmm.
That's true.
Yes, that's
Unfortunately.
so true. So true.
Yeah.
But
So
I think even at that, for so many on that side who are fighting Black Lives Matter, and the folks who have come to rally for Black Lives Matter, as well as those that Meredith mentioned in terms of reparations, are able to plunge upon that particular method, that sheriff, that police officer, that judge, etc., and say, you don't want to come forth and admit what's happening, but God is pouring it down upon you. And at some point, your stony heart is going to be changed. It might be during this generation, it might be in future generations. I may be long asleep like Rip Van Winkle, but God is plunging into this racism. And he is opening up doors for more and more people in the world to see beyond printed pages and just running over a newspaper article in a magazine or whatever, a book, and see these people all their lives have faced social injustices. And you, being a human being, must understand that they never were 3/5 of anything. They have always been, from the divine creator, whole human beings. And these labels you have placed upon them are not true. You have done these things, not God Almighty, which is why these statues are troubled now. Something that we have always had to face, from children to where we are now, great grands and so forth. We have had to look at them. And if we violated, their laws took us out, not God's law.
Yeah, and that's why we need to try to focus on changing policies. But we better let Lynette read so Harry could read, because it's 3 o'clock now.
Oh, okay.
It's been a great discussion though.
Yes, thank you.
I'm not going to read my brother's on his way back. So when he comes in, I'm gonna have to mute again. But I did want to make a comment. My heart just was hurting when I read, the man had to watch his wife, BB. A man have to watch his family sold off, or a parent anyway, and you know that if you step up, you gonna die. So you can't be there to at least be some type of mentor or some type of protector for your family. And what Shepard was saying, I was thinking about that this morning. If your whole life you are in a constant state of high alert, you really are suffering from post-traumatic stress. And if you can't walk down the street, you can't just enjoy whatever. That's a stress. And I wonder if that might not be some of that hereditary high blood pressure or some underlying diseases. And I really mean that.
Well, that's a good point. It sure is.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's right.
Okay, Harry, are you ready?
You ready, Harry?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
What Joy found.
Hold the book up for us.
She said about that. Joy was digging a hole. Cling, she heard a noise. What could make a noise like that? She said. Joy dug some more. Cling, where is that noise again? She said. I'll find out what would that noise, said Joy. She reached into the hole and found something hard in the soil. Oh boy, she said. I found it. She brushed off the soil. Oh boy, oh boy. Oh boy, oh boy, she said. It's a coin. Now I can buy this a toy car. Just then, Joy's sister joined her. Joy pointed at the coin. Look, she said. See what I found. Now I can buy the toy car I want. I don't think that, that is a real coin, said her sister. You can't buy a toy car with that. The boy from next door joined them. Joy pointed to the coin again. Look, she said, I found a coin. Now I'm going to buy the toy car. The toy car. The toy car. The boy pointed at the coin. Are you sure that's a real coin? He asked. I don't think you can buy anything with that. Well, I like my coin anyway, Joy said, but she was sad. She put the coin in her pocket and sat down on the step. Her father joined her. Why are you so sad? He asked. Joy pointed at the coin. I was digging a hole and I found this, she said. I wanted to buy a toy car with it, but everyone says it's not a real coin. Let's take it to my friend Roy, her father said. He has a coin store. We'll see what he said. Look at this, said Joy's father. He pointed at the coin. Joy was digging a hole and she found this in the soil. I wanted to buy a toy car with the coin, said Joy, but everyone says it's not real. Roy smiled. This coin is real, all right, he said. This it is very, very old. People used this coin long, long ago. Will you let me buy this coin? Asked Roy. He hand held out some money. Roy looked at the money and then looked at her father. It's your chance, he said. Oh boy, it's your choice, he said. Oh boy, I will sell you the coin, said Joy, and then I will buy the that toy car I wanted. That I think you can buy more than a toy car with that money, she said her father. I think you can buy a toy car and a real bike. The end.
Thank you, Harry. Hey, can you do us a favor? Can you give us a summary of the book since you read the whole book?
Joy found a coin and she was digging. Joy was digging and she found a coin. She showed her sister, and then her sister said it wasn't real, and then she showed the boy next door, and he said it's not real. So she sat on the steps sad, and her dad joined her, and he asked her what was wrong, and she told him that everyone said that the coin she found was fake. So they went to the dad, uh, the dad's friend Roy. That was a coin that had a coin shop. He said it was real and they used it long ago. So he showed her the coin. He sold the coin. She sold the coin to him for money, and she bought the toy car. And then the dad said, and then her dad said she could buy a real bike, and then she bought the real bike, and then at the last, there's a picture with her sister and the boy next door digging.
Okay. So the bike was a part of the joy.
So,
Was the bike a part of the joy? The title of the book is
no,
what
her name
her
is Joy.
name is Joy. So that's the book is what Joy found. And Joy found a coin and she bought a bike with the coin. Is that it?
No, she sold the coin to a coin man that had a coin shop to get money and bought a toy car and a bike.
Okay. Okay, very good.
Yeah.
All right, Harry.
Coin.
It just so happened today Harry's the only child on the call. I mean, in the fact, He has been faithful. We're going to have to give him a good supply. He
Yeah.
has not missed one session. He has been on 14 times.
Great
Oh,
job,
wonderful.
Harry.
He is,
Yay, Harry.
he is holding it down. Harry, you are holding it down for the children.
That's right.
A great representation.
Absolutely.
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
Role
Well,
model.
yes. All right. You want to make a final comment, Harry, before we close it out?
Final comment.
You want to make a comment?
You love Zoom. I love Zoom.
Say you love to read.
I love Zoom.
You love Zoom. Wow. Oh man, I love Zoom too, and I especially love.
I do too.
I'm learning Zoom.
Zoom. Well, that's
I'm
great.
learning Zoom.
You learning it.
Thank you all so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mama. Thank you, Mama.
Thank you. Thank
Thank
you.
you.
All right, see y'all guys later. I'm gonna upload the video to YouTube in a few minutes, and you can find it by virtual reading fair. Okay, thank you. Y'all have a great. We'll see you in the morning if you have
All
time.
right.
Have
All
a
right.
good one. Thank
All
you.
right.
See you tomorrow.
Okay,
Thanks.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Thank you again.
Okay, thank you.
You well.